Hi, everybody. I'm going to do an overview of the way that I have handled basically claiming the property, the entity, the birth certificate, the whole straw man thing, whatever you want to name it. It's my journey of what I've done. Whether it works for you or not, I have no idea. I just know it works for me and it's very, very powerful. And I'm going to give a quick overview of why it's powerful, at least why I believe it's powerful, what I've done. And in this, you will hear me talk about UCC and liens. Please understand, there are people out there that say, oh, liens are unnecessary, or liens are admitting that it's their property. No, that's not how a lien works if you know exactly what you're doing. There's a million UCC gurus out there. I'm not one of them. Although I happen to learn from some UCC guys with proof in the pudding, okay, that are very, very incredibly good at UCC. And we only took important elements, the minimum necessary to do the maximum job. We didn't go through all these bonds and promissory notes and all that stuff. No, that's not how I saw the pieces put together, and I put them together in a way that is unique to myself, which many other people do it in a way that's unique to their self. There's no one way to do this, but I'm going to explain to you what I've done, why, and how. Okay, so I've been in this journey a long time, figuring out the pieces as I go. I study the law dictionary constantly, and when I say I study it, I don't mean I sit down and I read it. Every time I see a word, a definition, or a word that I think I know the definition for, I look it up in the law dictionary. I understand the law language because I've been in the law dictionary, I can't even tell you how many hours. The law dictionary will explain the basics to you. It will give you the foundation. It's words, it's just words. And unless you know the words, you can't understand the language. So anyway, what I did was I see the birth certificate, okay, and what it is commercially. All right, let's forget about all the other things it could be, and let's just talk about exactly what it is. It is a registered organization under UCC Article 9, 102A71. I've explained this briefly in another video. It is a registered organization, okay, much like a corporation. It's just a fictional entity. However, that registered organization can have value or does have value. Okay, so when you're born here in this country, well, that's debatable, this country. But anyhow, when you're born, you get a certificate of live birth. Your parents fill out an application, okay, which is asking the state to, give you permission to create and register this thing with them, okay? So your parents fill out this application and it creates an entity. So you get a certificate of creation. You get a certificate of title, certificate of live birth. So basically a certificate of title. From there, you get certificates of interest in that, which is called the birth certificate. So just picture it as a registered organization, i.e. a corporation, if you want to call it that. In your mind, picture it as a corporation, okay, which started from the certificate of live birth, and that corporation can give out shares in its stock. And when it does that, it gives out certificates for stock, which is the birth certificate. Two different documents, certificate of live birth, birth certificate. Now, for those naturalized here who've come over from other countries, your naturalization certificate is essentially it's not really your certificate of live birth, in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion, it's also a certificate of shares. Okay, in the entity that has been created somewhere else on Earth. and now has come over here. It can still be used the same way. So for those who have been naturalized here, don't get, too worried about, oh, well, I don't have a birth certificate here, so I can't do the things that Rob is suggesting. Yes, you can. Because remember, it's all yours to begin with. And that's the next part of this. So you have this registered organization. It's yours. Okay? It was your parents were in charge because your parents are executors of your estate. All right? When a man and a woman merge, their estates merge, and the executor is the man. Okay, so he's now the executor of the woman's estate. And we can get into the details of that as they play out on the actual certificate of live birth and things like that, but it's really unnecessary for right now. So they've created another estate for you, okay? They've created this corporation for you. Great, mom and dad gave me the family business, right? All well and good. Then it's left with the state. Okay, so they hand it over to the state. This is called a bailment agreement. It's not a trust. Okay, and if you look in your trust books, that teach trust, you will see a bailment is not a trust. A bailment is when you give property to someone to hold, either for your benefit, their benefit, or mutually. So it can be a unilateral bailment, which means you've given it over for their benefit or your benefit only, one of the two. They're both unilateral bailments. Or a mutual bailment, which means you've given it over to someone to hold for both of your benefits. That is what's going on here. Okay? So this property is given over to the state to be used for your benefit and their benefit, okay? Because they can use it, obviously, and they do, to the nth degree to credit themselves, and the bank and all this stuff too. But they're using it to pay the bank, right? Because the bank owns the government. So they're using it to pay the bank. And you're using it by going out and using it to get loans and a job and all that stuff. So technically, yeah, there's some mutual benefit there. Okay, so it's a mutual bailment. So they hold on to this piece of property. If you don't return to change the status of, number one, your being, your person, who you are, either a U.S. citizen or an American. I'm not even going to say American citizen because I don't believe in citizenship, but you're either an American or a U.S. citizen. They're two very distinct citizenships, and you can watch that in my other video. Okay, you correct the status and you correct the claim. Well, you don't correct, but you clarify the claim of this property, that it is in fact yours, and you get them to clarify it. All right, and I'll explain to you how to do that in another video. So you get them to clarify it. All right, and then from there you rearrange the bailment agreement. Okay, you don't even rearrange it. What you do is you terminate the original bailment agreement. And if you look at the law of bailment, it's very simple. All you do is send a notice that terminates a bailment agreement. But you want to make sure you put the right stuff in that notice too. And you want to make sure that you document things properly. That's all part of the process. I'm just trying to give you an overview. So you take this registered organization and you claim it. You already own it, but you're just clarifying your claim. I'd like to say that. It's a little bit better. You're clarifying your claim. Okay, then you're going to terminate the original bailment agreement. Okay, now you have proof of all of this. And then what I did from there was I took this entity and I placed it into another entity. Okay. I exchanged it into a trust, not just any trust, not a common law trust, not a factualized trust, none of that. I put it into a private business trust. That is a contract trust. It's an irrevocable contract trust. And it's what all the elite use for their own stuff, and for good reason. Okay, so those are all the detail. That how you do that is all in the details. But essentially, what I saw happening was just what I just said. Step one, correcting my status as my quote-unquote citizenship status, because a U.S. citizen is a legal enemy of the state, and I can show you where that is and prove all that in later videos. So correcting the status, clarifying the claim of who actually holds title and owns this registered organization. Okay, protecting that property. Once clarification is given, then you're protecting that property with a lien. That's 3. Okay, you protect that property with a lien. It's your property. You can lien it for whatever you want. You don't have to have a contract. You don't have to have anything to lien your own property. Okay, now when you're liening property that someone else is holding for you, then you have to have a contract. And we'll get into that, and that's basically what I did. Okay, so I took this property and I said, I'm a man of the Supreme Creator. I cannot own anything in this life on this earth. So I gave it to something else to hold, to use, to administrate. And that's the private business trust. The private business trust administrates all of that. So if an agency from a corporation, an agent from a corporation or an agency comes to me and says, are you, John Henry Doe? No, I'm not John Henry Doe. I'm sorry, I can't give you that information. I'm under private contract, and someone else owns that entity that you're looking for, and being that that entity is owned in a private agreement, I'm not allowed to disclose anything about it. And that is now how I approach things. Okay? Because the entity is owned by a private trust. It's not owned by me anymore. Unless you come to me and say, is your name John Henry from the family Doe? I've got no business with you, because I don't know who you are, and I don't know who you're looking for. All right, so those are the simple steps that I took. And what is actually happening now is I'm giving value to those certificates, those shares, those stock certificates of whatever I want. And I'm assigning it over to the trust, who is now the creditor. But my value is going behind that, because I'm the original equitable creditor, and I'm handing that over to the trust. I'm assigning it to the trust. Now the trust is the creditor, and the trust can go out and do the business of the entity, and it doesn't affect me, because it's not me. It's the trust that does the business of the entity. So the trust can use the entity's paper, the entity's certificates, for value, because I've given it value, and the trust backs up those certificates. It underwrites them, it insures them with silver, $21 in silver. So now there's also insurance. And this is working amazing for me, I don't know if anybody else can make this work, but I'm making it work, and my trustees, and we're all happy to see, how this is actually turning out. So in future videos, I'm going to give the details of that, but that's the overview.